Mike Smith getting all from West Coast as he clings to the lead from Gunnamera. Iraq is third at the inside. Cameron is fourth and is West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire. It's the Travers.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. And Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Monday morning, live from the Saratoga backstretch, right in front of Clare Court on a beautiful Saratoga morning. And what makes it even better? Andy Serling in the house. Andy, good morning.
Good morning. So great to be here, Seth.
For the season finale for you.
For me,
yeah,
not for you. You're working straight.
I'm here another week, but we're happy to have you on board. We'll talk a little racing for this afternoon, but we want to hit on some other topics as well, as this is the last Monday morning you'll be in with us. I wanted to first tip my cap to you and say another great season down at the Parting Glass with the radio show. I've made all but one, and I was down this past Thursday where you had one of the Ortiz brothers, Mark Cassie, Bob Edwards, and man, it was an overflow crowd down there.
It was a big crowd on Thursday. That was great. No, it's been a lot of fun. The show has been great fun. I've enjoyed the guests this summer, and obviously all the people that come and join us. So it's been a fun summer, and I appreciate you coming down as well, Seth. We've got one last show. Chad Brown's going to finally be there on the show. My buddy Anthony Stabile is going to join us. Chris Kay is going to join us as well, and I'll see if I add somebody else. But for now, I have those three, and looking forward to closing the summer out and hopefully on a high note. And it's been a good summer, and appreciate all the support from you guys at Capital OTB, but the fans as well.
8 o'clock Thursday night down at the Parting Glass, and again, it was another great season down there with the radio show. And I should remind people, for us too, we archive these shows on our Capital OTB YouTube channel, and people often say to me on the front side, "Oh, you had a guest today. I heard about it. I missed it." I said, "Go pick it up on YouTube." People are just kind of unaware, but the radio show is archived on YouTube as well. Ernie Munich is down there taping them every week.
Absolutely. So it's nice to have those out there, and they are on YouTube. They're archived by Naira on our YouTube page, and also we put them as a podcast as well on the Across the Board podcast, so you can listen to them pretty quickly on that as well.
And you'll appreciate this. Last Thursday night, I left the Parting Glass and I went over around the corner to my typical haunt on Caroline Street. Who was in there? Bob Edwards and family at Desperate Annie's, playing some foosball and having some beers.
Yeah, I was going in there with them late on the night of Bob's birthday, actually. I ended up getting a little bit detoured from there. But yeah, Bob's a great guy.
Yeah, that was
really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was saying to the people who were sitting around me and the bartenders, it's the guy who wants the favor for the Travers. I don't think they typically see them in Desperate Annie's that often.
Bob gets around. Bob's a man of the people, no doubt about it.
That was good. Let's also touch on the other work. The radio show is great, but the MSG show, the Fox MSG show, has been fabulous this summer as well. I try to catch it when I can, either the late night or the early morning replays, so I get to see some of them. But you guys do a great job. I've had Chris Kay in here, some of the other Naira people, and I say all the time, it's a great addition to the racing scene, not just for New York, but for racing in general, because on MSG and Fox Sports, you are hitting a general sports audience and just helping to promote the sport.
Well, I hope so. I mean, listen, it's a labor of love, and it's a lot of work goes in by a lot of people, not named Andy Serling, and it's a lot of fun doing it, and glad we're bringing it to people, and it's been a big success, and what more could you ask for?
Yeah, it's not just the racing. You do some great behind-the-scenes features, and yeah, as I say, it's a nice addition to the racing scene. All right, before we get to today, I want to go back to the weekend, get your thoughts. We're going to watch the stretch run to the Travers. It's Catholic Boy, kind of runs away from this group, and just really a great job by Jonathan Thomas and team. Follows up the Grade 1 Belmont Derby with the Grade 1 Travers. Belmont Derby on turf, Travers on dirt. That was the question mark. Would this horse take to the dirt in a field like this at 1.25 miles? Question answered. Really a great performance on Saturday.
It was definitely a definitive performance. And Catholic was just much better than these horses. It's interesting. I mean, the best race he ran as a 2-year-old was the Remsen, his dirt race. And a lot of people, myself included, thought he was a major player for the Derby. I wasn't deterred by his Sam Davis effort at all, and still had him as one of my top Derby horses, and actually kind of my top horse. He bombed in the Florida Derby. I guess he probably bled that day and some issues, and he's gotten even better. But the truth is, he's a better dirt horse than he is a turf horse, and he's a very good turf horse as well. And a lot of credit to Jonathan Thomas, who's a terrific young trainer. We had him on Serial Live yesterday. I had him on the radio show earlier this summer. A very articulate guy, an interesting guy, and he's just done a fabulous job with a very good horse. On a personal note, I regret picking him second and not on top. I kind of allowed myself to be seduced by Gronkowski, who did not run a step. He got rank after the start, but really it was Catholic Boy and everybody else. I mean, Mendelssohn showed up. They did the right thing with him. They sent him to the front end, which was really his best chance in there. And he ran a credible race, but he was no match for Catholic Boy. The others, Good Magic, he chose. First of all, he should never have been 6-5. That was ridiculous. He should have been 5-2 or 3-1 in there. But he didn't break that sharply, and he wasn't winning anyway. But once you don't break sharply, it puts you behind the 8 ball, and he was in a bad position the whole way. But at the end of the day, Catholic Boy ran, the rest of them didn't.
Yeah, it was, again, a nice performance to kind of put him firmly in that position on top of the 3-year-olds now with Justify retired. It's going to be fun to see. And we had Jonathan Thomas yesterday, and it was interesting. What's next? And he said, I can do a little turf. I could maybe go Hill Prince if I wanted to in prep for the end of the year. Well,
he made a good point, I thought, on Saturday Live about that, saying that maybe a turf prep wouldn't be as hard on him as a dirt prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and that's their goal. And, I was sort of joking around on Twitter yesterday and had a fun poll just to sort of laugh at people about whether or not they thought if he won the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Catholic Boy could be 3-year-old over Justify. And I understand he's not going to be. I'm not that big an idiot. But in my mind, the Justify retirement, I don't want to minimize what Justify did, because it was an amazing achievement to do what he did in a 4-month period. And we probably won't ever see that again. But the fact that he's gone, I'm sorry, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I understand there were reasons, etc., and I'm not, the horses come first and all that, but at the end of the day, he's going to be remembered, Justify, as more of a curiosity than some sort of top-class racehorse. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The Catholic Boy has a chance to be remembered as something really special, I think. Not that Justify isn't, but Catholic Boy keeps on running, and if he runs next year, that's good for the game.
Well, Justify, you can't take anything away from the Triple Crown and that career in the short period of time, which, as you say, is a curiosity, and it has something you have to tip your cap to just in that. But you look at Catholic Boy, and again, the Grade 1 Belmont Derby, the 1.25 miles on the grass, the Grade 1 Travers 1.25 miles on the dirt. That's something that's as a curiosity as well, and shows a kind of, he has his own little quirk to kind of tip your cap to.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about running in the Travers, and one of the reason you run in a race like the Travers, people that don't get it, and they said, oh, he's a turf horse, why are they taking a shot? Because of the upside. It's the same reason that Mendelssohn was running in the Travers, and the same reason that Coolmore takes chances in the Breeders' Cup Classic, the enormous amount of potential upside from a breeding standpoint. Catholic Boy is probably worth over $20 million now, and before the Travers, he had a very vague amount of value. Was it $2 million, $3 million? Who knows what it was? It was a pretty negligible amount, if that, and I'm talking about as a stallion, not necessarily as a racehorse. His stallion value has skyrocketed to $20 million, so forget about the purse. They'd have run the Travers, the purse was zero, given what they had to gain, and they're gaining an enormous amount, and hats off to them, and I think that's why people will take a shot, because regardless of what people want to think, the money for breeding in this country is in dirt horses.
Yeah. Let's go just a little bit earlier on the card and quickly just get a thought on the personal ensign, because again, unfortunately, there was the bumping incident, but for me, it didn't take anything away from 2 great performances. Abel Tasman and Elate come down the lane, and in what you want to see in a big race like this and kind of duke it out, and it does wind up to be Abel Tasman over Elate, but as I say, a couple of really, really good performances there.
Yeah, I have next to no interest, actually no interest in discussing the foul. I think the right call was made by the stewards, and moving on. And this comes from somebody who bet Elate. I'm an Elate fan. I think she probably was more compromised by the racetrack and that she was trying to rally outside in the stretch. And the inside pass at that point in the day may have been a bit better, and that helped Abel Tasman, but I wouldn't take anything away from Abel Tasman. These are 2 terrific racehorses, and they had an old-fashioned throwdown on the racetrack. And I think to get too caught up in the bumping incident is to take away from what was arguably is good, if not the best, top-class race we've seen all year between 2 top-class horses. They're wonderful horses, and I just love the personal ensign. It lived up to the billing, even though I personally wanted Elate to win.
I was right with you. I had used her off that Delaware handicap, but you got what you wanted. You got what you paid for there. As the 2 horses that you expected got to the top of the stretch and then had a ding-dong battle. All right, let's talk some racing for today. First, let's look at race number 5, Statebred Claimers going a mile on the turf. I was doing the handicapping show earlier. I went 4, 7, 6, and 3. I put Wicked Freud on top off the claim for Gary Gullo. Takes a little class relief off of that, going from the 40 optional to the 25. But it's Gary Gullo, it's Mike Rapoli, so I thought the horse probably well spotted up here to maybe try for a W. I went 4, 7, 6, and 3. What did you think?
I'm Gary's biggest fan, but his numbers off the claim with turf horses are not good, and I don't want this horse that couldn't get his act together for Brad Cox after being claimed from Jimmy Ryerson. I want very little part of him. I thought the race was, changeability is good. I think the 6 has a chance in this race. He could always try to wire the field, but with the presence of the 1-8 Peculiar Sensation, I think that'll make things difficult. I prefer with Exultation in here, a horse that I think is a better horse around 2 turns. He had significant trouble in his last race. It was missed by the chart callers. I was actually joking with them, and they realized they'd missed it once we showed the replay. A little late to go back and change the chart. And he was buried down the inside and badly stayed in the late stages. And if you look at his turf routes, he's best off around 2 turns. I like his chances for Linda Rice. Mobridge off the claim for Danny Gargan. Danny's horses have not been running their usual top races up here. He struggled a bit at the meet, and he's had a couple wins, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's tough to win up in Saratoga, but some of the horses just haven't run as well as you might expect. But Mobridge is a horse that cost himself the last race by bearing out badly in the stretch. I was going to go 5-2-6 in here. They were the only ones I was interested in.
All right, 6th race. It's an allowance. Non-winners of 1 other than the 6th race is going to be a quick 5.5 on the turf. I went 6-9, 1-8. I put Bam Bam Blue on top. I thought the 2 starts leading into this, the dirt off the turfer to break the maiden, and then the nice allowance win last time right here at Saratoga with an improved number kind of set this horse up to maybe run well again this afternoon. Jason Service got off to a little bit of a slow start at the meet after the red hot spring, early summer all over the East Coast, but he's certainly heated back up here at Saratoga as well. So I think this horse comes in nice form. Pagliacci is interesting as his New York song. For me, 6-9, 1-8.
Bam Bam Blue, the 6-year-old, making his 4th start. Going a little tougher for him today. I took Yummy Bear, a small chance with Yummy Bear off the claim. Jorge Abreu is having a sensational meet with 6 wins and just a limited number of starters, and the next assistant Chad Brown doing a fabulous job. And if you look up the horses he's claimed for owner Michael Dubb, going back to Gulfstream when they started getting together and claiming horses, they have really done well with turf horses, whether they've won or run second or outrun their odds dramatically in a number of occasions, 1st or 2nd start. And Yummy Bear is a horse that even though he was able to cut out a fair pace, and it was actually a pretty good pace considering, he's better with a target, and he's a horse that's really more of a sprinter than a router, but he can do both. I'm going to take a small shot with him. Thought Stolen Pistol's probably one of the horses to beat. We'll see. He should get some pace to run out. He was over his head last time. Really run it badly on a softer course. And Dr. Shane, just a very logical. One of the speeds, I'd want Dr. Shane. I went 2, 3, 4.
All right, and race number 8 today, the featured Better Talk Now, $100,000 up for grabs, a mile on the turf. I went 2-7, 1-5, but I said on the handicapping show, you know what? I may take an extra look at Combatant because I liked them I liked them on the Derby Trail earlier this year, and sometimes I like these dirt horses who maybe have some extra class when they move to the turf at some point. Certainly didn't show much in the Hall of Fame, but that was on a yielding course, so I may go back.
You're covering the whole field here.
Yeah.
In other words, you like 4 horses, but there's a 5th that you want to spend most of your time talking about. You're lucky you've never done talking horses with me. It would be I would shred you, seriously, like you were a secret document.
That's very good.
That was the most embarrassing moment in the history of handicapping on the Capitol.
No, but I want to explain because I liked them in the Hall of Fame, and as I said.
So you didn't have them in your top 4.
No, but
you're like the guy who says I want to pick. You're like the tout who calls up with 8 different people with 8 different horses and gets a winner.
The horse fair, the day at the races with the Marksboro. But at 8-1, so if he's a price, I'd play around with him. But
said you picked a horse with no chance. So there's that.
But I went with CV. But I'm wondering if the speed.
You know the speed. Straight power. Well, could fall down at the start, pick himself up, and be ahead of him.
I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out. I mean, the last 2 workouts at Monmouth, the 46.
Not faster than Perot.
Well, all right. We will see. But that's what I'm going with.
There'll be a pile up at the start for him to be in front.
But so for me, it's 2-7, 1-5. What did you say?
I think this is a fascinating race, and I do think there's a chance that Strike Power will wire the field. The Dam was a major winner on the turf, though she's produced 2 horses to try the turf, didn't win, but there's plenty of turf in the 2nd generation at Speightstown. So I'm a little worried he'll wire the field. If he doesn't, I think it opens it up. I did have it all in there a little bit, and Corot is dangerous. I mean, he's a full to Midnight Storm and won over $1 million in the turf, but I'm taking a small shot with Westerland. I think it's going to appreciate getting back to a firm turf, and I wonder if that's one of the reasons they brought him here more than Lasix. He caught that ridiculous soft course last time, and he had no chance. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It was yielding. I shouldn't say it was that soft, but it just didn't play out for him. He was very wide in the first turn as well. I didn't think his effort was that bad in the Manila, considering the pace, considering how wide he was throughout the running. And I thought that effort, something to build on, would give him a chance here. So I'm going to try Westerland one more time. I picked 9176. Should I give my fifth choice and go in that direction too?
That was very good. I'm going to shred you like a secret document. I'm going to have to tuck that away and use that at sometime.
Why don't you say that to Vic? This time he's particularly annoying, which will surely happen on Sunday.
Sunday morning I'll use that. Andy, I'm going to miss you, Andy, after that performance.
I always miss you. I'm always happy to see you. It's a pleasure to see you, and I appreciate everything, all the support from Capital TV, the radio show, and love all the things you guys do.
We appreciate the work down there. Again, Thursday night for the last radio show down at the Parting Glass at 8 o'clock every afternoon, MSG and Fox Sports. Andy, thanks for the visit.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Peter Thomas Fornatale covers contests for the Daily Racing Form. We'll talk about that and much more. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Chain, lifting it up, lifting it up, lifting it up. Pin sagging gold grills, lifting, trilling the cut, trilling the cut.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Monday morning here, live from the Saratoga backstretch, and as promised before the break, Peter Thomas Fornatale covers the contest scene for the Daily Racing Form. Pete, good morning.
Good morning to you. Always a pleasure to be back. Last few years I'd been on during the Battle of Saratoga. Glad we were able to sneak one in here under the wire in this week, which I always love, the post-Travers week.
Yeah, we had you pegged on our calendar for the entire meet, and it just worked out that this was the time. But as you say, post-Travers, and I'll get some of your thoughts on the weekend.
Oh, what a fabulous weekend of racing. I mean, we saw some amazing performances. That stretch drive between Abel Tasman and Elate is something I'm going to remember as long as I'm going to the racetrack, the drama, the controversy, but just seeing those two fillies really lay it down in the stretch. If that doesn't get your fire burning, your wood is wet.
Yeah, those are like, yeah, Andy had a good one, you had a good one. All right. So, and that's why you come to the races. You look at the form and, oh, these are the two in the top of the stretch. There they are, and it goes all the way down to the finish line.
That was fabulous. And, of course, the run in the Travers from Catholic Boy. Horse I've always admired, appreciated him and his efforts up here last year, and good to see him show that he's a major player with what's going on in that division, and just a terrific effort in a good time. We talked before the Derby about how good the 3-year-old crop was. A little bit of a lull in the midseason, but maybe late season here we're going to see a couple more performances like that to show why we were excited about this crop in the first place.
Yeah, certainly that was just a big storyline with the win in the Belmont Derby, and then the win in the Travers, a couple of grade ones at 1.25 miles on turf and dirt. He's just adding some excitement now to this 3-year-old scene now that Justify is retired. All right, want to talk a little bit tournaments and whatnot. Before we do that, though, I do want to mention you were hosting some of the handicapping seminars on the front side, which it was nice to see that has kind of come back a little bit. That was really a morning staple here for years and years at Ciro's and whatnot, so it was nice to see. And I kind of got the idea you guys had a good reception to that.
It's been fantastic. We've had good crowds. We're on the second floor of the grandstand down by the new stretch area every Saturday at 11. We've had some great guests, given out a few winners, had some lively conversation. We run from 11 to 11:30. We wrap in time for folks to get the deep dive on all the races on Talking Horses, but still an opportunity every Saturday to go over some of the stakes races and do some spot plays, and looking forward to one more go at it on this Saturday. Have to finalize my guests for this week. I've got some ideas. We'll see if I can pull them off, but it's always a great time over there, and great to get to meet so many of the racing fans and listeners.
Yeah, we've been touting it and kind of reading off the guests you've had on here and pushing people over there, and you have had some nice guests that certainly people would want to tap into their expertise. I want to talk a little bit also about, and I think we have some video, because World Horse Players Tour, we were talking before we went on the air that you're one of the guys behind this. It's an interesting new concept. Talk a little bit, and again, I pulled up some video last night of the YouTube premiere, but talk a little about the World Horse Players Tour.
So the World Horse Players Tour is a new television concept. Basically, you've seen poker on TV. The World Horse Players Tour presents racing in much the same way. We've got a live bankroll final table and a chance to feature the excitement of horse racing and tournament play in particular, hopefully not only to the existing horse racing audience, but also to a whole new audience. The other thing is, for those who are a little more involved, know a little bit more of the background about tournaments, the World Horse Players Tour is a new way of running handicapping tournaments that's hopefully going to take off, where the players put up the money and churn money at the track and the World Horse Players Tour put up the prize. So it's an opportunity for positive expectation gambling, something that I know all serious horse players are excited about, and hopefully it's something that's going to take off in 2019 and beyond. We had the premiere a few weeks ago. Response incredibly warm. Had a few nibbles we're starting to look into in terms of potential broadcast partners, and also a lot of racetracks want to get on board with this. Folks who want to check it out, you could go to YouTube. You could just search for World Horse Players Tour and find it that way, or you can check it out at the DRF website as well, drf.com/YouTube. DRF, one of the many strategic industry partners who've lined up to help us out in these early days of the World Horse Players Tour.
Yeah, highly recommended. Go over and look at the premiere. Again, if you're a horse player, it's a lot of fun. They tried the show a couple of years ago. I liked it, but it just kind of disappeared. But this one is a little bit of a tweak and a little bit of a different concept. I watched a little bit of the premiere last night, and I think it's a great idea, again, to kind of present horse racing in a new way that I think can get to a new audience too. I mean, I don't think it's something that just appeals to horse players. I think it's one of those things you can watch even if you aren't a horse player and get drawn in as you root for some of the players.
That's the idea. Like poker, there's a reality element to it where you have these characters. Some of them you're going to love, some of them you might not love so much, but that's okay.
You gotta have the guy you love to hate.
You find your people, you gravitate towards them, you root for them, you root against the others, and you see the drama unfold. And one thing that I think is great and a little bit different about horse racing as compared to poker, I think there's a lot more camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think we had the chance to capture some of that. And I think that makes our world, which can seem a little dense and intimidating maybe, show that there's really a friendly element to it. And you have some of the very players who were at our final table doing well. Somebody like Nick Tamero, fantastic presence on Twitter, willing to answer questions, interact with people. Hopefully it's going to be a way to demystify the world of horse racing a little bit too by showing what it's really all about.
Yeah, Nick used to do some handicapping here for us at Capital OTB, so we're certainly familiar. In the clip we saw there, folks may recognize Duke Matisse. We had the Matisse brothers in here a couple of weeks ago on the Sunday show with Steve Bick, and I tipped my cap to Steve. You talk about the camaraderie. He does the radio broadcast from the NHC every year out in Las Vegas, and I say, you think radio at a horse racing tournament, but I tune in and you get that feeling. I'd love to go just from listening to you. Get that whole feeling of camaraderie where it's competitive and it's big time, but everybody's in it and a lot of smart, sharp people, and it just seems like a lot of fun.
It's phenomenal. The NHC being a great example of that. It's a horse player convention. I call it the coolest horse player party of the year, and Steve does a great job. I've been honored to be his co-host the last couple of years, and you get an opportunity to bring these players over, players like the Matisse brothers, Jonathan Kinchin, a regular guest as well, and just sharing their knowledge, talking generally about tournament strategy, about handicapping. You listen to people like that, you can't help but learn something, and it's a great way for players today to be able to make connections. The hidden aspect, I think, of being a successful gambler, and this goes for horse players too, is networking. The ability to meet winning players, be around them, learn what you can from them, and just sort of soak up the atmosphere. It can be a little entertaining to see the guy busting up a chair after he gets DQ'd or loses a photo or whatever. But when you go and you hang out with a crowd like that, so many people have been doing it for so long. It's a great experience. I recommend people check it out.
Yeah, it was fun to listen to Steve last year. The last bet Paul and Duke were sitting in, and Paul's the guy who wins the tournament and wins his last bet, Paul saying, well, he made the wrong bet. And he sat in here a couple of weeks ago and he said, I still think he made the wrong bet. It was a lot of fun to listen to that. Not only the NHC, which highlights the year, but we want to let you tout, being a Daily Racing Form guy, the Daily Racing Form, over what the past couple of years, has added their own tournament schedule.
Absolutely. DRF Tournaments is the place. You can find it tournaments.drf.com. We have some of our own events. We also qualify for major live bankroll contests all over the country. We've got stuff up there now, particularly so people can win into the Keeneland Fall Challenge. That's always a great event during that meet at the storied Lexington Oval. And there's plenty of other opportunities as well. Chances to win into the Fall Classic at the Orleans and our own World Championship of Handicapping. Folks who are interested in all the games available, go no further than tournaments.drf.com.
And there are different entry points, correct? I visited before, so that's nice.
Absolutely. You can get involved for as little as free. We have free ways. And then there's smaller bankroll games as you sort of move up the ladder and find your comfort zone. Matchup games where you play against just one other player. Winner-take-all games against 4 opponents. And then we have the bigger games as well. DRF tournaments all about the player favorable ratios. It's, you play in a tournament where 1 in 50 people get a prize. You need to have a miracle day. I still feel like most of the games on DRF tournaments, you go there, you pick winners. You need to have a sense of value, obviously, but you pick winners, you have a good day, you're going to be able to survive and advance and win your way onto these bigger prizes.
Yeah, again, there are all kinds of different formats and different buy-in entry points, so it's worth checking out. You mentioned it. I think not just 1 in 50 get a prize, but I always say some of these online tournaments, you get 200 people. I always feel like it's got to be your day, and my ratio is about 1 in 50 has their day, and that doesn't mean it can't be you. It can be you, but the bigger the pool, the more that 1 in 50 takes precedent. But when you get these kind of smaller pools and different things, you don't have to necessarily have the absolute breakout day. You can just have a good day and still advance.
That's the idea, and different players are going to feel differently about this. Somebody who's a big, long shot player might be more comfortable with those larger ratios. But what I find with those, in that situation, you'll see too often somebody had to have a horse that I would deem unhandicapable to advance. I like sort of a blend of the two where value is being rewarded. It's not just picking 8 to 5 shots, but you have a chance to pick your 4 winners and your 2 place horses and get a significant prize. If you're making enough money relative to your starting bankroll, it's nice to see you get rewarded and not just have a tough luck 7th.
But I'll advise people to swing by the DRF tournament site and just kind of check out and see if there's something you're kind of comfortable and give it a try and jump in. Mainly because, and I'll ask you if you agree with me, I think tournaments you have to think a little bit differently, which then improves your handicapping overall. They have 2 more shots at the low roller over here. I play it all the time because you can buy in for $40, 10 goes into the prize pool, you play with 30. But again, you just have to come at it from a little bit of a different angle, which I think improves your handicapping on a day-to-day basis.
We talk about it all the time on the DRF Players podcast, handicapping in contests, and that ability to stretch even a little bit out of your comfort zone and find reasons to back horses at, even if it's just 4 to 1, 6 to 1, 8 to 1, not necessarily the biggest bombs, but the more you get used to finding those horses, identifying those horses, you're going to become a better player at the windows. These are going to be horses who you end up mixing in verticals, in horizontals, and are going to lead to scores. And just that idea also of identifying the difference between the spread races and the races where you can really narrow down. In a lot of tournament formats, even those narrow down races, to know when to take that favorite, very valuable skill. Same thing in a pick sequence. And at the same time, when it's a spread race, to identify that horse at the longer end of the odds spectrum that's really going to light things up. Tournaments will definitely make you into a better cash player.
Yeah, no question about it. And speaking of tournaments and tournaments here, I mentioned the low rollers, but they had the bigger tournament here earlier in the meet, a couple of days, a couple of separate tournaments, but a lot of the biggest contest players show up here at Saratoga every year to participate. And you and I were talking before we went on the air. Paul Sherman, the winner this year of one of the events, has a nice shot to make a little history on the tournament scene.
Absolutely. Major accomplishment this would be. Paul Sherman in great shape to become the first ever 2-time winner of the National Handicapping Championship Tour, National Horse Players Championship Tour, I should say. Paul won it back in 2011. He finished first in the first half competition and then has started the second half, raring to go again. An outright win here at Saratoga, finished 6th actually in a contest at Monmouth on Travers Day to keep the good vibes flowing. I talked to him about it, and I asked him what it would mean to him, and he admitted that with all the accolades he's had, 3 top 10 finishes, the NHC, an NHC Hall of Famer, this would still mean something to him. And he brought up Johnny Vandermeer, the only pitcher, of course, to throw 2 no-hitters in a row. He says, I feel like this could be the horse racing equivalent of Johnny Vandermeer. Somebody might tie me someday, but nobody's ever going to break it.
And again, we'll be watching on that through the end of the year. Paul Sherman, who won up here in there, and I didn't get a chance to get over, but there was a good turnout up here for the 2 days.
Fabulous. NYRA deserves so much credit. They took a little bit of a chance. This tournament had always been during the week. This year they moved it to a Friday, Saturday. They were rewarded with big numbers on both days, essentially turning people away in the end. They had so much of a positive response. Glad to see them be rewarded for taking that chance. Those players turned over a lot of money, and there was some great tournament action. I wrote about it all in the pages of Daily Racing Form. Folks want to go back and check out those articles. But Paul Sherman, definitely the biggest story of the 2 days.
And again, you can check out Pete's stuff at the Daily Racing Form as he covers the tournaments of all sorts. But you covered something else, Pete, and before I let you go, I just have to have you talk about it because I'm envious doing this job. And up at Saratoga, I'm so lucky that I get to pull in the big names of the game. I mean, I've had Ellen Jerkins sit here. I've had Jonathan Shepard sit here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I have never talked to Harvey Pack, one of my all-time favorites. As a guy who, when cable TV came up to this area, would watch the NYRA replay show and the horse is with you and the program and everything. Harvey Pack, just I think to a lot of New York racing fans, is a very important character. And you had a chance to talk to him, relate a little bit about that interview.
How fabulous a chance that was to go up to Harvey's place on the Upper West Side and get him to deliver some of his greatest hits. It's all available on the DRF.com website for folks who want to check it out. A lot of them were captured in the book we wrote a few years ago, May the Horse Be With You. But Harvey, of course, always with new spins and some stories that fell through the cracks. for people who don't know, back in the day, you know, if you wanted to catch a race result, you weren't pulling out your phone and you didn't have a portable phone. You were watching, you were maybe listening to, if we go back far enough, WNBC in New York, to one of Harvey's race call recreations. In later years, maybe you had cable wherever you were in the U.S. and could watch his nightly recap. And a lot of people in Kentucky, this is how they saw their horses run, courtesy of his show. Just an amazing character, been a fantastic mentor for me. We mentioned the seminars at Ciro's back in the day. Those are definitely the spiritual antecedent of what the little tiny version I'm trying to do on Saturdays over there. I got my start sitting on the side of that stage, and it's just, Harvey's been such a positive influence on my life and career. Always a pleasure to work with him. Check out those videos, and I might be writing a little piece about them too as we get to the end of the meeting.
Yeah, as I say, I'm envious because Harvey was one of the early performers that I locked into as I got into the game as well. And before we let you go, you've kind of mentioned it before, but we'll let you tout it a little bit, where people can find it and when they can find it. DRF Players Podcast.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, via Google, SoundCloud, Spreaker, the list goes on and on. We also have direct links available on the DRF website. I'll tweet out a link to the next one we do too if you follow me on Twitter @LoomsBoldly. Twice a week, typically the Tuesday show, we recap the action from the previous weekend. Friday, we look ahead to races. It's always JK, Jonathan Kinchin, and myself. Occasionally, we bring in some guests, and we just have a lot of fun talking racing, and we've had a warm response, and it's always great to meet podcast listeners up here.
Pete, really appreciate the visit. Good luck going forward, particularly with World Horse Players Tour, and hopefully we'll see that on one of the networks coming up soon, because, again, people can go look for themselves at the premiere. A lot of excitement there. DRF Players Podcast, appreciate that. And again, just appreciate the kind of work you're doing, because I also had a note here. I have youth written on the page. You wrote a nice article the other day about the contest and how they're pulling in younger players, and that's always good for the game.
Absolutely. You check out that final table at the World Horse Players Tour. We've got 6 of the 8 under 40, and including a 23-year-old kid who makes a deep run. It's exciting to have this new form of betting that's appealing to this younger generation. The opportunities are just tremendous in tournaments, and I think that speaks to it as much as anything else.
And Peter Thomas Fornatale covers it regularly in the Daily Racing Form. You can find it if you pick up the hard copy, or, of course, DRF.com. Pete, appreciate the visit.
Cheers, my man.
Peter Thomas Fornatale. We'll take a break. When we come back, our buddy Ron Nicoletti is in the house, up from Gulfstream for a few days. We'll talk some racing here and beyond. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting, where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, live on a Monday morning from Saratoga as we wrap up Travers Weekend. Hey, look who's in town, Ron Nicoletti. Good morning.
Wouldn't be a Travers without me sneaking around somewhere.
And I know your cousin lives fairly close to the track, and on mornings like this, often you're biking around town. Did you bike in today?
I didn't bike in today because I didn't want to look all sweaty on the air next to a guy who was dressed as sharply as you. And my cousin, talking about it, he bred the winner of the last race yesterday. So we ended the day on a high note.
Very good. Give him a little plug.
Yeah, American Ninja. So Tom Miners at Five Oaks Farm. Yeah. So he does a great job at breeding and stuff. He's a great guy, too.
Local. And so when you come up, you and the cousin are around the track often, and you've been here for about a week enjoying some of the activity. Let's go back and get some of your thoughts. You and I were talking during the break, and I'll let you tout a little bit because you like Glorious Empire, and you said you had a nice little hit there, and I said to you, after the race I looked, and I probably should have jumped on that horse.
Well, over the years with Julian Leparoux, who rode Glorious Empire, one of his fortes, and most people don't believe this, they think he comes from well off the pace, but if he can get on the front end with a turf horse and slow it down, it didn't go that slow, but I just said, well, here's a shot. Now, I liked Mott's horse in second in that race, but that was my thought process. And every once in a while, you're right, and he went up there, and when I saw the mile mark, I said, this horse has got a big shot to get the job done.
Yeah, we talked to Chuck Lawrence on the show yesterday, and he said when the first fraction came up, he was a little dicey, but when then they came up after a quarter and a half, he felt after a half and three quarters, felt a little bit better, and so that was a good call there. As I said, I kind of kicked myself. It knocked me out of a pick 5. Let's get some thoughts on the Travers. Again, I think we have the stretch run here, Catholic Boy. I just could not pull the trigger on Mendelssohn. I haven't liked him, but he ran well to be second, Bravazzo third. But boy, this was a nice performance by Catholic Boy, kind of pairing up grade ones, one on turf and one on dirt.
Well, yeah, it's just a great performance. And Mendelssohn knocked me out of everything talking about that. Just couldn't use this one. I'm thinking the reason I used Catholic Boy, of course, there was the Florida connection. But I just thought, I kept looking, and since I've been here Wednesday on, all I saw until maybe yesterday was speed, speed, speed. So I said, this horse has got a chance to maybe win it in here. So I bet it to win, but I threw out the 8, had nothing else behind this horse, but a great performance, and what a training job.
Yeah, incredible for a young guy who's kind of new on the scene, and to have a horse like this and to have done what he's done on 2 surfaces. Jonathan Thomas, we had him on yesterday too, and it's just easy to root for a guy like that who's kind of really getting off to a very good start in the career. And speaking of Florida connections, I wanted to pull up one race that just, I'm sure as a Gulfstream guy, you could appreciate, because in the Alan Jerkins Promises Fulfilled puts another big performance together for Dale Romans. Won the Amsterdam earlier in the meet in like a freakish performance, and you wondered, would there be a bounce? No bounce. Promises Fulfilled, and I will say Dale then gets up second also with 7 trumpets for the exacta. But as I mentioned earlier, Promises Fulfilled won the Fountain of Youth down at Gulfstream, then got in that crazy speed duel in the Florida Derby. But this was a horse that was coming off a nice run down at Gulfstream.
Yeah, Dale Romans was very high on this horse during the winter meet at Gulfstream Park, our championship meet. And once again, getting back, sounding like a broken record. Just speed was so good, I thought, on these last couple, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I just thought this horse would run exceptionally well, and he did, and just a great performance.
Yeah, really a nice performance by Promises Fulfilled on the 3-year-old sprint scene now. And before we get to today, I wanted to just go back a little bit. Gulfstream a couple of weeks ago, because this is going to play into the end of the meet up here. This was the return of Gunavera. August 10th, down at Gulfstream, race number 4. Gunavera is going to be the number 1 horse. Again, went off as a short price favorite that day, but won as you would want to. And as I say, we'll play it up here because I believe it's going to ship up on Friday for the Woodward. But this was a pretty nice comeback event for Gunavera.
And at this particular point, you're watching this horse run, and coming off a long layoff. Of course, he had that injury in Dubai. You didn't know what to expect, and it was just like pressing a button. He blew. I mean, it was a small field, but he blew by the field. It was a great return. Think he's going to move forward, and as you know, loves Saratoga. So this horse, I think, is going to run exceptionally well. And you could just see him there. He only faced 4 rivals, but it was so impressive. He had 7 works coming into this race. What do you expect with all that problems he had with his hoof? Comes back, he's geared down, wins it for fun.
Yeah, this is what you wanted to see on the comeback event. He's going to be interesting up here in the Woodward on the weekend. And as you said, he's already a stakes winner here at Saratoga, so that's a bonus as well. All right, Ron, ask you to come over and have some opinions for Saratoga. You've been here for a few days now, and as you said, a nice little hit on Saturday in that Sword Dancer. We'll see if we can get some ideas for this afternoon to move us forward. 6th race today, allowance non-winners and one other, then Turf Sprint. I went 6, 9, 1, and 8. I put Bam Bam Blue on top. I thought Pagliacci and New York Song were kind of interesting, but what did you see in the 6th?
Well, I'm laughing because I went 6, 9, 8, 1 in this particular race. And Bam Bam Blue, more importantly, Jason Service, just having an incredible meet. He's really strong with back-to-back wins.
He started slow, but after about the first week and a half, 2 weeks, he's come right back on like he was doing every place else earlier this year.
And the 9-horse, Mr. Mott's horse, Pagliacci, I just think this horse hits a perfect trip in there. There is some speed. I think it's a very competitive race. So I saw I was going to go back and forth, almost going to put Mont on top because I saw a lot of speed, but I went with Bam Bam Blue basically for the connection. Oh, and you get Nyrod Ortiz Jr., so it doesn't hurt, excuse me.
7th race this afternoon. It is a state-bred 25 claimer, 7 furlongs the trip. For me, it was 5, 3, 1, and 9. I put Riff Raff on top. You know, Master of the Obvious, but this horse coming off of that race last time was claimed. And now drops a little bit from the 40 optional claimer to the 25 today. But I just think a race early in the meet that was very good over the track, that sets the horse up well. So I couldn't go in a different direction. I thought Sal the Turtle, though, was interesting. That last number, is it an aberration, or can this horse do it again? Moves up a little bit potentially, but I thought the horse would run well for Steve Asmussen, and Summer Bourbon from the inside, I think, is just in some good form right now. So for me, 5, 3, and 1.
Well, you're absolutely right with the 5 Riff Raff, but I did go a little bit of a long shot, and he'll tell you, and that's Love That Jazz. And I think there's a lot of speed in this race. This horse is going from turf to dirt. Michelle Nevin, she's really solid with horses making that surface switch like 26%. I see a lot of speed. You look at this horse's record on the fast track, 9 for 17 in the money, sit the trip. How about Manny Franco? I love the way this kid rides.
Yeah.
He rode my cousin's horse who he bred yesterday, of course, trained by, and I just think that this horse, if everything works out right, now 2 days ago I wouldn't pick this horse because the way the track is playing. I saw it fairer yesterday, so that's my little bit of a long shot. And then all the reasons you just mentioned with Riff Raff, and I put Salad Turtle a little further down on my ticket, but if he comes back with that next performance, and a horse I wanted to look at a little bit of Summer Bourbon. I like the fact that this horse is getting blinkers on this afternoon. I thought would help him. So a little bit of a long shot there with Love That Jazz.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with Sal the Turtle, I will admit, because I'm not sure how believable that number is. And I said on the handicapping show earlier, we'll know better about that today. But by then the race is over, so that won't help us necessarily, but maybe for next time. Finally, the feature today, the Better Talk Now, a mile on the grass. I went 2, 7, 1, and 5, and Andy was making fun of me because I also mentioned the number 3 Combatant, so I'm five deep in here. But Combatant I only mentioned because I was kind of on him in the Hall of Fame, and if the horse floats up from the 8 to 1, I don't necessarily want to jump off. But I put CV on top. Now the question mark is, does CV and Strike Power kind of go out and duel each other into submission? That certainly is a possibility. Have It All, I think, on the race 2 back maybe has some positional speed to stalk and pounce. I'm going to kind of draw a line through the Hall of Fame because of the yielding course there. So for me, 2, 7, 1, and 5. What did you see in the 8th?
One of my, if you follow my handicapping in South Florida, I had to have Strike Power on top. This horse goes up, set those fractions of 21 and 1, 43 and 4, albeit that's in the grade 3 Amsterdam. But look who won the race. Promises Fulfilled. We were just showing the replay of Promise Fulfilled, going to the turf, stretching out to the mile distance in the turf. Johnny Velasquez, does he need the lead? I don't believe so. Will he be on the lead? Probably, but I think Johnny in there, he could stalk. So all those angles, CV in second for me. I thought that was a logical contender in there, and the one to beat, really working up a storm at Monmouth, has been seen since he was really impressive at Gulfstream Park. But with that said, I just like Strike Power. I like that angle, and Rose's Vision, the 5, I think sits the trip. If that speed duel that we see on paper materializes.
Yeah, I thought that horse was interesting coming down from Woodbine as well. Ron, as always, appreciate the visit, certainly the live visit. We talked to you by phone a number of times during the year, but always fun to have you here live. We'll wish you a safe travel back home. We'll look for you on the simulcast signal back down to Gulfstream.
I hope to see you down in Florida this year again.
That'll be the game plan, I'm pretty sure. Probably, again, Pegasus and Florida Derby duo down there. I always like to take a little bit of break and get the warm weather. And you got here just in time for nice Saratoga weather. We were having the Florida weather for most of the meet with the humidity and the afternoon storm.
I was going, what's everybody talking about here? The weather's fantastic. It was 50 in the morning, 57 in the morning. It was absolutely great. It's always fun to be on the show with you and be here in Saratoga and to see my family.
Very good. Ron, travel safe and appreciate the visit. Ron Nicoletti from Gulfstream Park. We'll take a break. Teresa Gennaro, a little bit early for the weekly calendar, but she heads back to school this week, as it is that time of year, unfortunately. But we'll go through the upcoming events right after this. Stay tuned.
From Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad. Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Welcome back to a jam-packed edition of Racing Across America on a Monday morning as we wrap up Travers Week. One more week to go, but we still have today as well. And again, we'll talk the Low Rollers contest over there. I'll talk about that in just a second, but happy to be joined now. Again, a little bit early, Teresa Gennaro with the weekly calendar. Good morning.
Good morning.
And as I say, a little bit earlier because for a teacher, back to school.
It is back to school. As I said just before we went on, this time tomorrow, I will be ending my first faculty meeting of the year.
And you know, we've talked about it before, that you are a teacher, but also a horse racing writer, horse racing columnist, blogger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know whether I've ever asked, and we may have gone over it before, but how did you get into the horse racing game?
Well, I grew up in here.
Yeah.
Grew up in Saratoga. My parents owned harness horses when I was a kid. That was a big part of the reason that we moved here. And so when I was a kid, we just used to come over here all the time. And I went away from the sport a while. I lived far away, didn't pay much attention, and then came back in about the early 2000s, and all of a sudden these weird historical connections started making in my head, thinking 1863, 1864, the novels I teach were being written then, what was going on, and I started really digging into the cultural and political history of the track, and I just found it fascinating and decided to spend all my summers here.
And I remember the first 3 years I knew you, you'd go back to New York for the U.S. Open, but now the track even supplants that.
Yeah, I know. I used to spend pretty much that whole 2 weeks at the Open, and not anymore. Yeah. Although that was fun. That was really fun, too.
With strawberries, is it, or am I thinking Wimbledon?
You're thinking Wimbledon, strawberries and cream.
No, what do they do with the U.S. Open?
Heineken and hot dogs. What else?
What was I thinking? Yeah, well, very good. All right, let's jump into it. Again, a little bit early on the calendar, but we still have a whole lineup of events taking us through the end of the meet. And there's an event tomorrow, rerun here during the meet. We've talked a lot about, second careers and retirements for horses. Rerun plays into that, and they have the Picnic Under the Stars coming up tomorrow. Yes,
and this honors Edgar Prado on getting his 7,000th win earlier this year. It's out at Saratoga National. Check out Rerun's Facebook page or their website for more details. One of the major places that horses that run in New York, and New York breds in particular, end up to go for their post-racing retraining and adoption. It's a terrific place. If you go on their website, you're going to see a lot of familiar names from horses that have been retired there.
And again, that's out at Saratoga National. And as I read first of all, jeans are welcome, so it's casual. 6 to 10 tomorrow night at Saratoga National. But as I read the little blurb in here, they will feature chef-inspired s'mores.
I know. I'm really sorry. I'm going to miss that. It sounds delicious.
I'm curious to know exactly what that is. I mean, I'm assuming some kind of s'mores upgrade.
Yeah. It's not going to be like your typical campfire s'more, but the fire pit out there at Saratoga National.
That's what it says. S'mores around the fire pit. Yeah. Coming up on Wednesday here at the racetrack, College and Alumni Day, and we've touted it a few times during the meet. There are always activities behind the grandstand in that Saratoga Pavilion tent. That's what's going to happen on Wednesday, College and Alumni Day.
Yeah, and there are often scholarships announced after each race. I'm not entirely sure that's happening this year. Details on that just came out, but they will be up on brooklynbackstretch.com later today.
So on Wednesday, swing by the Saratoga Pavilion tent out and back for more info. Also, Wednesday kicks off what is Fan Appreciation Week up here at NYRA. And that's, a tip of the cap to the fans from the New York Racing Association on what is, a week that I always tout. The weather's nice, the racing's good, but with kids going back to school and whatnot, the crowds may level out a little bit, but NYRA takes that opportunity to kind of tip their cap and say thank you to really a lot of the locals, I think, mainly.
This is one of my favorite weeks of the year, and I'm sorry I'm going to miss most of it. Because it's quiet here, it's cool, you sort of feel like you have the track to yourself. And NYRA, as you said, takes advantage of this final week to offer loyal customers a variety of perks. The details have not been announced yet, but if we look at past years, discounts on clothing, discounts on some of the food and beverage. If you are a Saratoga Perks holder, one of those cards, you get additional discounts. So stay tuned. Again, look at the website, brooklynbackstretch.com, and we'll get the details up on that as soon. And that will go all the way through closing day on Monday.
Also want to move on to Thursday, and there's a children's program at the Racing Museum. Should be fun, kids 3 to 8.
They've been doing this every Thursday, introducing kids to horse racing in a variety of ways. Some of them made their own trophy, they designed their own silks, and as you said, this one is about designing their own picture frame. So very arts and crafts oriented, while the kids also learn about horse racing. Kids 3 to 8.
And again, that's at the museum on Wednesday. Let's move on, Thursday. Yep. That's at the museum.
Yep.
Let's also mention Thursday night, because we just had Andy in here, and he was talking a little bit about the radio show and Blockbuster lineup again. I was down this past Thursday, and it was a good lineup of guests, and it was like an overflow crowd there, and I'm sure that'll be the same game plan coming up this Thursday night.
Yeah, he'll have NYRA handicapper Anthony Stabile, trainer Chad Brown, and NYRA president and CEO Chris Kay.
So it should be, again, a big show down there. Parting Glass, 8 o'clock on Thursday. You can come and hang out by me as I eat my hot turkey sandwich on a Thursday and enjoy the radio show. It's always fun. I always get people kind of coming up and saying, hey, appreciate the morning programming, and it's fun to kind of be in the crowd down there for Andy's show on Thursdays. As I said to him earlier, he's done a great job so far at the meet. And I'm just kind of scrambling here to pull up because there, and I'm before I moved on, I'll go back to it. I'll let you talk a little bit about another event because there's another Friday thing I want to mention. I'm trying to find.
I want to talk about that. There's the giveaway sale.
That's what I was going to mention. So if you have the info, go for it.
I have the info. So you can. Kind of a weird concept. You can buy a giveaway, but both 2018 giveaways.
Friday, this is.
It's on Friday when the gates open at 11 o'clock. You can buy giveaways from past years and from this year. This year's giveaways, which were the umbrella, the cap, and the blanket, are available for $5 each, and giveaways from prior years are available for $2 each.
So there will be some bargains to be had. It's out the pavilion tent, correct?
It's at the festival tent, which I think is in the backyard.
Oh,
I think that's where you pick up the giveaways.
Oh, okay, all right. I think you're right.
Yeah,
so.
and they do these at Belmont and Aqueduct all the time.
Yeah.
And great deals.
Yeah,
Start your Christmas shopping a little early.
We were down there for maybe Cigar Mile, and I got some crazy nice Belmont T-shirts for a couple bucks.
Yeah, definitely
good. And I also bought a nice little thermos for a couple bucks. I never use a thermos, but it's like it's $2.
It's such a good deal. You can't pass it up.
So now I'm ready, just in case I have a need for a thermos. All right, so that's Friday.
Yep.
Saturday, the Run for the Horses comes up.
Bunch of years they've been doing this now, probably more than 5, almost 10, and it's just your typical 5K run through gorgeous Saratoga Spa State Park, and it raises money for the local thoroughbred aftercare organizations like Rerun, like Old Friends at Cabin Creek, a couple of standardbred operations, and the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation.
And that is Saturday. Saturday also, of course, a great stakes card with the Woodward, Spinaway, Saranac, and Glens Falls. I mentioned earlier, Guinevere will be in town for the Woodward. Should be a great way to put a capper on some of the stakes action here at Saratoga on Saturday. Sunday, again, don't forget, Fan Appreciation Week continues on all of these days. Those kind of promotions and events will happen each and every day. More information will be coming on the fan appreciation side of things via NYRA. But one of the fan appreciation things is always the giveaway items. And the final giveaway item, again, Friday you can pick up past giveaway items, but there is one more upcoming giveaway item. Sure, people will be jumping on this. Sunday, free with paid admission, the Saratoga Windbreaker.
You usually get a lot of people lining up. I remember quite a few years ago now, the first time they did a blanket, they were literally lined up down the Northway trying to get off at exit 14. Looks good. Something we probably could have used a lot earlier in the meet when we had a lot of rain. But you can come and pick up yours on Sunday.
Yeah, I should have had that because one day I was reduced to the 99-cent Walmart poncho as I walked out to my car.
Yeah, you gave me one of those.
I gave you one, and I had like 5 more in my thing just in case. And one
in
day
case.
I broke it out, and it was very utilitarian, but it was not as good looking as that. No. It worked, but also, as I said earlier, Sunday I'll mention again the low roller challenge. Don't forget, there's one today. But next Sunday will be the last one. They do it every Sunday and Monday, but not on Labor Day. So next Sunday will be the last low roller challenge. But don't forget, there's one upcoming today as well. Also, just around town and whatnot, this will be kind of fun. We've mentioned some of these events put on by the Saratoga Springs Preservation Foundation. You know, if you're in town for a visit, and even if you're locals, it's always funny, locals who, I mean, well, you're from Brooklyn.
No, I'm from here.
Well,
I
mean, you live in Brooklyn. Let me put it that works too. And you know, if I went down and visited you, I'm sure I'd talk to you and your friends and like, hey, ever visit the Statue of Liberty? No, never. And that's the same on a lot of these Saratoga Springs preservation things. Certainly people who come to town for a visit, but I'm sure a lot of locals too. They have a summer stroll coming up, the Queen Anne's on Circular Street and Union Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, this is the site of the original Skidmore campus, Skidmore, of which I'm a proud alumna. And the architecture down there is stunning, and one of the great things about Saratoga is all the different beautiful walks you can take. But this one will give you the opportunity to learn a little bit about the history and the architecture as well.
My sisters went to the downtown, or the Union Avenue and vicinity campus. They are also Skidmore graduates. And it is advised as well, I kind of like to wear comfortable shoes.
Always wear comfortable shoes.
Coming up, some ongoing events just wanted to tap into. you can always visit old friends at Cabin Creek. I talked to Michael Blown the other day. He was in town. I didn't get Michael on this year, but he made a couple of strategic come in and leave town. We'll always fun to talk to Michael. Certainly next year we'll get him on. But he heads Old Friends in general, and the one in Kentucky, Joanne Pepper out here at Old Friends at Cabin Creek. They do a great job with a lot of familiar names on the retired racing side, and they have ongoing during the racing season. You can go up and visit.
Yeah, and don't forget about them when the season's over either. Those horses are there all year. There are a number of events. Their fundraisers are very modestly priced, often just a suggested donation, and you really get to go and get up close with the horses. It's terrific.
Yeah,
this week or any week. And I was there last October, and I got to tell you, when the fall foliage has turned and you've got the horses against that backdrop, it is gorgeous.
Just up the road in Greenfield, and commentator Zippy Chippy, familiar names up there. So here's something that we probably should have pushed much more, but certainly there is still the opportunity to do it. And if it's a morning like this, and I think the rest of the week, they're saying the potential heat comes back this week, but the morning's very, very comfortable. So take advantage. Breakfast here at the racetrack. If you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun. You can watch the workouts, take the tour of the backstretch, and again, probably should have pushed that a little bit more. I think most people are familiar with it, though, but we see the tram go by every morning packed with people, so certainly people are taking advantage. If you haven't yet, though, that's an option as well.
Yeah, and the breakfast buffet over there is a pretty good price. I think it's about $18, all you can eat. But you can also just bring your own coffee and a Danish from the bread basket or somewhere else downtown and sit in the boxes and watch the horses work out. And it's really nothing more beautiful.
And that may be attractive to people too. I don't think people realize that, but there is no there's no dress code and there's no enforcement in the morning.
Right.
Go sit in one of the prime boxes if you want to and get that bird's eye view that you're not going to get in the afternoon.
And no cost.
Oh no, absolutely. that may be the most important factor. Again, that's recommended. Our friend Kim Weir, she was actually out earlier this morning as we came on the air, but we had her on a couple times earlier in the season from the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. And again, we'll tout their ambassadors are in the area through the end of the meet.
Yeah, they have some retirees at a farm just outside of town. Another opportunity to learn about that program, the horses that it serves, the humans that it serves in some of their programs, and again, just a chance to get up close to a horse and pet it. Can't do that too often at the racetrack during the year, but you can definitely do it at the farm, and for a great cause.
And as always, if you didn't have a chance to write down something that interested you, you can find the entire schedule at the Brooklyn Backstretch blog.
Yes.
Type Brooklyn Backstretch into Google. It'll take you straight there. And Teresa, before you go, I will thank you here on the air because we mention it, so I'm sure people are aware, but if they aren't, you also help us book our guests here in the morning. So Brian on Saturdays as well. So again, thanks for all the help.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great summer.
Back to school for Teresa, but again, you'll be back next weekend, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I like that with determination. All right, we'll wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Fun show this morning. We'll be back on Wednesday morning as we will kick off closing week. That's crazy, right?
It's crazy.
Zipped right by. I feel like I should be wearing an asbestos outfit because the friction of having the month zipped by was so great. But we still have 7 more days of racing left. Plenty of opportunity to cash some tickets. Hopefully, you will all do that. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. It is really a nice day up here. So cash some tickets today. See you back here on Wednesday morning.
You've been watching Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America has been brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. Pannell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. Woodbine Racetrack, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. And the new Capital OTB mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play.